the Delaware Valley's only primetime news hour. Fox 29's The 10 O'Clock News.
Good evening, I'm Lee McCarthy.
And I'm Jill Chernikoff. Here's what's happening. The push for a review board for the Philadelphia Police Department gained momentum today when, for the third time in 2 weeks, a man was killed as police tried to arrest him. City Council will vote on the proposed review board tomorrow. Mayor Ed Rendell and Police Commissioner Richard Neal both oppose the plan. Despite the growing clamor for a review board, Commissioner Neal says the decision on how to handle today's incident is his.
Head with the bottle, received some slight injury as a result of being hit with the bottle, but the officer is not hospitalized, if that's what you're asking.
Was he treated at the hospital?
No.
This morning's police shooting left a homeless man dead in South Philadelphia, and Rich Noonan has the story.
What began with a schizophrenic throwing bottles at cars ended in death at the hands of a police officer. 36-year-old Kenny McClary, a former Marine, was shot and killed this morning after hitting a police sergeant in the head with a bottle. Sergeant Brian Austin, a 7-year veteran of the force, says he was trying to arrest McClary when McClary threw a bottle, knocking his hat off and grazing his head. The officer then maced McClary, but it did not stop him. Police say as McClary was about to throw a second bottle, the sergeant shot him once in the heart.
We just heard somebody running down the street. We heard the cop yell, "Drop it," and then the shot.
People who live in this neighborhood near 20th and South say McClary was one of the street people in the area. He grew up here. This man has known McClary all of his life. He is not surprised that McClary could have a confrontation with police.
If Kenny would attack anybody, it would probably be a policeman, because he did seem to have like most homeless people, kind of have a thing with authority figures.
McClary's mother, who lives right around the corner from where her son died, says he was a troubled young man.
Kenneth is out of his misery now. He won't have to go through that any longer.
I don't know you need a lawyer too.
He was so humiliated by his condition.
McClary was supposed to be taking medication for his mental problems, but was not. His mother says McClary was thin and frail, and despite his behavior, police did not have to shoot him.
They could have subdued him, honey.
With no weapon shown.
No, he had no weapon. They couldn't subdue him.
At least 3 officers were on the scene when the sergeant killed McClary. He is the 3rd man to be killed by police in 2 weeks, a fact not lost on investigators who swarmed the scene. Police Commissioner Richard Neal, who has said very little about this shooting today, may be thinking, what horrible timing. He spent part of his day before City Council testifying that a police oversight board is not needed. Tomorrow, Council will take a final vote on that board, and given today's shooting, proponents of such a board may have all the ammunition they need to get it. At police headquarters, Rich Noonan, the 10 o'clock news.
Lower Merion Township officials faced a packed house tonight after the alleged harassment of a black minister. Last week, a Lower Merion police officer arrested Albert Davis after he made a U-turn in Ballackinwood. He was charged with obstructing traffic and disorderly conduct. Tonight, those charges were dropped. Township leaders say the officer acted improperly and they apologized to Reverend Davis. More than 200 people attended the commissioners' meeting tonight.
Our investigation of this matter is now complete, and I am in a position to tell you that in my judgment, the officer did indeed act improperly, and that I will be initiating disciplinary action in the form of suspension without pay for violations of our policies and procedures and rules of conduct.
David Latshaw said he wants to increase the role of minority representation to avoid any further incidents.
SEPTA has begun testing employees on its subway elevated lines for tuberculosis because one of its workers has tested positive for the disease. But neither SEPTA nor the City Health Department believe the general public is at risk, and they are downplaying the risk to employees. Victor Livingston reports.
Everybody's concerned.
And everybody's being tested down here.
Yes.
This SEPTA token clerk was tested by her employer this morning for tuberculosis. The test came 2 days after the Transit Authority sent its 1,500 Subway Elevated Division employees a letter strongly urging each of them to undergo a TB screening test. They'll get the results in 2 days. Are you worried about this thing?
Well, I worry about everything, all right?
SEPTA began the voluntary screening program after a maintenance worker was found to have tested positive for TB. The letter notes that Philadelphia has experienced a 20% increase in TB cases last year.
Now, these employees are worried.
We know that because we talk to them.
I think any time there's a case of TB that people would worry, and that's why we're doing the testing to try to put their minds at ease.
What the letter doesn't say is that the employee who tested positive was never contagious and in fact has already returned to work. Both SEPTA and the Philadelphia Health Department say there is no public health hazard here, although they say they understand why employees who got the letter may be concerned.
That person is at no risk to anyone else to spread the disease. The person does not have tuberculosis.
But one transit cop expressed a widely held concern that homeless persons living in the subway heightened the TB risk. The city health official discounted that concern. He said there's a greater risk of contagion in a crowded subway car. He also noted that 8% of all persons tested for TB test positive, but that they can't pass it on unless they actually come down with the disease. But is it a health hazard to have homeless people living in a subway lane?
I personally am not aware of any public health disease that has been attributed to the people living in the subway.
SEPTA plans to conduct educational seminars so that employees can put the risk into perspective. The agency has no plans to extend those seminars to its general ridership. Victor Livingston, the 10 o'clock news.
According to a study out today, recognizing tuberculosis is a problem for most doctors. Almost two-thirds of the doctors surveyed by the Centers for Disease Control did not know what to look for in a TB skin test. The survey also showed that 25% of the doctors did not know that there are official recommendations for treating TB. 42% could not identify the recommended treatment. 7% did not know that TB must be reported to the local health department.
More than 24 students at a parochial school in Gloucester Township became ill today after eating lunch prepared by McDonald's. As Steve Coleman reports, the affected children are okay now, but earlier it appeared to be a very serious situation.
At St. Agnes School, a special lunch day turned bad when several students complained of stomach cramps and nausea after eating hamburgers and French fries from a local McDonald's.
Several of them were vomiting several times in succession. A few of them did have a slight temperature, so all we could do then was keep them comfortable and get some medical assistance.
17 West Church Street, a medical emergency.
In all, 16 children were taken to 2 area hospitals. 7 were brought here to John F. Kennedy Memorial Hospital in Stratford. All were treated and released soon after being examined. Some were treated for upset stomachs, but food poisoning was ruled out.
That was our first concern, since that's what most of the children were eating today, if it was related to food.
But at this point, there's no evidence.
There's no connection now yet at all.
The manager of the McDonald's where the burgers and fries were purchased declined to speak on camera, but was cooperating with the school and the Board of Health to figure out what happened. Meantime, the principal at St. Agnes and teachers spent the afternoon fielding phone calls from worried parents. They had their own ideas about the cause of the children's illness.
Yeah, that's true. See, it wasn't hamburger people that were sick, it was French fry people.
Sources at the Board of Health agree, saying the combination of cold, greasy fries and the children running around was probably to blame. What one teacher here called a case of weak stomachs and healthy imaginations. In Gloucester Township, New Jersey, Steve Coleman, the 10 o'clock news.
One misfortune led to another for a North Philadelphia businessman last night. First, the brakes on Vincent Green's car failed and he crashed into a guardrail on the Strawberry Mansion Bridge. When he regained consciousness, he faced the East River Drive 40 feet below. 4 men stopped to help. But the intentions of those good Samaritans apparently were not all that good.
They helped me to get to a payphone while I had the police on the phone. They robbed me.
Green says one of the men asked for reward money, then knocked him to the ground and stole his pouch. The 4 men ran off with more than $2,000.
Coming up next, the White House Travel Office is grounded. We'll tell you why employees were told to clean out their desks.
And huge pieces of concrete come tumbling down following an accident in Alabama. The word on the police beat is that Philadelphia Deputy Police Commissioner Tom Seaman may be going to Dallas. Seaman says he is one of 12 candidates for the job as police commissioner of the Texas City. The Dallas Police Department is about half the size of Philadelphia's. Seaman has been a Philadelphia officer since 1969.
More than 400 law enforcement officials took part in a major drug raid this morning that spanned 4 states, including Pennsylvania. But this is a bust with a new twist. Rather than targeting the actual dealers, officials went after those who make the vials that are used to sell crack cocaine. U.S. Attorney Michael Rotko and Pennsylvania Attorney General Ernie Priate announced that a federal grand jury has indicted 25 people for aiding and abetting the distribution of crack. Officials seized 26 buildings, 16 vehicles, and 100 million vials of crack, along with several $1 million in cash.
Law enforcement clearly is not just focusing on the street dealer, it's focusing on all aspects of the drug trade. From the manufacture of the tools of the trade to the wholesale distribution of the drugs themselves.
Priate said the two manufacturers had a monopoly on crack vials in New York and Philadelphia.
Drug dealers might have a shorter stay in prison if some new proposals are accepted by the Clinton Justice Department. The U.S. Bureau of Prisons has these suggestions to control the soaring prison population. The Bureau proposes cutting drug sentences for first-time offenders by 50%, cutting other drug sentences by 25%, raising the sentence reduction for good behavior from 54 days a year to 108 days. The Bureau of Prisons also proposes more use of home confinement as an alternate to prison time. And any of those changes would have to be approved by the Congress.
3 crewmen were killed when a military helicopter crashed in Maryland. The helicopter was part of the presidential fleet. Authorities say the Marine crewman took the aircraft on an inspection flight after maintenance. It crashed in a heavily wooded area across the river from a Marine base in Virginia, about 35 miles from downtown D.C. A 4th Marine on board survived. No word on his condition. President Clinton returned from the West Coast this morning and then spent the day on Capitol Hill selling his economic plan. He was there to head off any rebellion among members of his own party who want more spending cuts. Mr. Clinton described the closed mid-morning session with House Democrats as a good meeting. He expressed confidence that his economic package would ultimately be approved.
The axe fell abruptly and swiftly at the White House today. All 7 employees of the travel office were fired and told to be out by the end of the day. Some of them had worked at the White House for decades. White House Press Secretary Dee Myers said that they were guilty of shoddy accounting, mismanagement, and overbilling. White House travel will now be coordinated by a distant cousin of President Clinton through her travel agency in Little Rock, Arkansas. In Alabama, a tractor-trailer veered off course and smacked into a concrete column, collapsing an overpass and killing 2 people. State troopers have not yet determined if the truck driver was speeding or asleep at the wheel. One of the victims was a 20-year-old woman planning to marry next month. The truck driver is in fair condition.
Coming up, a report on Huntington's disease and Dr. Brian McDonough's series, It Runs in the Family.
And it was only a baseball game, but one person ended up dead.
The closing bell on Wall Street signaled a new record high today. For the first time in its 109-year history, the Dow Jones average closed above the 3,500 mark. The stock market gained more than 55 points to close at 3,500.03. The U.S. trade deficit also made a dramatic jump. It reached more than $10 billion in March, the worst performance in almost 4 years. The 29% jump was caused by Americans buying a record amount of foreign products. The Clinton administration pointed the finger at Japan because the deficit with that country hit a 5.5-year high.
A Colombian jetliner carrying 132 passengers crashed in the mountains today. The plane was on the way to Medellin, Colombia from Panama. It vanished from radar screens just 11 minutes before the flight was due to touch down. By nightfall, the plane had not been found, and the search is off until tomorrow morning, so it is not known if there are any survivors. Danish voters approved the European Unity Treaty at the polls, but it was a different story out on the streets. Rioting erupted after yesterday's vote. Dozens of police and protesters were injured. The fighting involved several hundred leftists and anarchists who took to the street once the results were known. Cleanup operations continued into today. Yet another announced ceasefire in Bosnia. Bosnian Serbs say that their troops will lay down their weapons and abide by truce agreements signed by Muslim and Croat forces. Meanwhile, the Bosnian Serb Assembly proclaimed the UN peace plan dead today, and threw the question of Bosnia's fate back to the world community. Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic explained that the Serbs have not voted for war, but rather for new ideas and initiatives.
The French nursery school teacher who stuck by her pupils during last week's hostage crisis says she was just doing her job. In her first interview since the ordeal ended, Laurence Dreyfus said she is not a Joan of Arc of the classroom. Dreyfus and her students spent most of the 2 days trapped in a suburban Paris classroom with hostage-taker Eric Schmidt. Dreyfus was given France's highest award, the Legion of Honor.
Racial taunts and slurs are said to have been the sparks that led to a brawl at a California Little League baseball game. The Saturday night melee ended with a teenage boy dead, hit in the head with a baseball bat. Don Knapp reports.
A classmate's death stunned Castro Valley High School students. Bizarre circumstances added confusion.
How can someone be so mad to pick up a bat and hit it at someone's head?
A post-game brawl following a spirited Little League season opener left 17-year-old Joseph Matucci dead and his alleged assailant injured.
Everyone's depressed and crying, and it's really shook up. Like, they talk about it a lot still. I mean, it's a lot.
Authorities say 18-year-old Little League player Antonio Messina hit Matucci, a spectator, in the head with a baseball bat, then ran from the scene.
Apparently, a pitcher on the opposing team, the Castro Valley team, saw him running from the scene after he struck the victim in the head with the bat, picked up a rock and threw it at him, hit him in the head, causing him to fall down.
The rock to the head sent alleged assailant Messina to the hospital.
The person who threw the rock is not going to be prosecuted.
But the district attorney says there will be a vigorous prosecution of the 18-year-old player who swung the bat. Antonio Messina remains hospitalized with a head injury, conscious but not alert. The district attorney says as soon as Messina's condition improves, he'll be charged with murder with a deadly weapon, a baseball bat. A Little League umpire who wants to remain anonymous witnessed the rock throwing. Tuesday, someone threw a rock through a window of his house, followed by burning papers. A note said, "Testify and you're dead."
I think that we just have to be more aware to explain to the children, just like our teachers have to explain to them, that sometimes you can't be or do everything that you see in a movie or on a TV.
This time it wasn't guns or drugs or drunken driving. It was just a baseball game. Don Knapp, Castro Valley, California.
Coming up, Governor Casey proposes big changes in Pennsylvania health care.
In sports, Wayne Gretzky and the Kings face Toronto in Game 2 of their series, and a report on why pigs are becoming less attractive.
Governor Bob Casey announced a health care proposal that he says will guarantee comprehensive coverage for all Pennsylvanians. Under the plan, businesses would be required to pay for the bulk of their employees' insurance. Unemployed citizens would be covered by a special insurance fund.
Everyone is entitled to be in this system. Those that have coverage now, those that do not have coverage, including those people that don't have any coverage at all.
The state legislature must approve the proposal before it's enacted. The governor hopes to have the program in place by early 1996.
A study by researchers at Harvard has found that vitamin E may help prevent heart disease. Those who were given vitamin E were 40% less likely to have clogged arteries. The long-term effects have not yet been studied. Researchers are not recommending vitamin E for everyone. The report is printed in the New England Journal of Medicine. More of the nation's hospitals are transferring patients who cannot afford treatment, according to a report by a consumer group. The practice of so-called patient dumping was outlawed in 1986. A hospital that breaks the law is often given 3 weeks to reverse the practice, or it becomes ineligible for Medicare payments. Federal health officials have found 268 violators since the law took effect.
The American Association of Blood Banks says a new Gallup poll shows the ongoing benefits of educating the public about AIDS and the nation's blood supply. At a news conference, the association said a big portion of those polled correctly believe that one cannot get AIDS by donating blood. But in spite of all their efforts, 25% of Americans still believe that it is possible to get AIDS from a blood donation. The president of the American Association of Blood Banks says that is not true.
In terms of safety, I think we have the safest blood supply in the world. And that is because of all of the safeguards that have been put on that blood supply in the last 6 years, the additional safeguards. There's no question that the safeguards in this country are more stringent than any other country collecting blood in the world.
Silverglide says blood banks have added 6 more screening tests, and most Americans are aware that those safeguards are in place.
Tonight in our series, It Runs in the Family, we take a look at Huntington's disease. This is a disease that attacks people in their 40s and 50s, and statistics show that if a parent has Huntington's, the child has a 50% chance of getting it. It is a cruel disease because it takes healthy men and women and slowly attacks them. Dr. Brian McDonough joins us now. Brian, hasn't there been a major breakthrough for this disease?
Actually, there's breakthroughs with major implications as well. Scientists have not only isolated the gene, but they're learning all about how it works. Even if this does not lead to immediate results, it supplies hope to those who are carriers of the gene. The Delaware Valley actually has a strong connection to the solving of this riddle. It is in labs like these that people's cells are frozen and then meticulously studied and examined for months and years, only to be cataloged and studied more. What you are looking at on this computer screen is called a karyotype. Each of these long band-like structures is a chromosome, and on each of these chromosomes are the genes which make us tall or short, athletic or clumsy, geniuses or mentally challenged. It doesn't sound romantic, but it's true. Do you see this little chromosome on the screen? It's called chromosome number 4. If something goes wrong with the tip, like it does in 1 out of every 10,000 people, you wouldn't think it would do much damage, right? Claire Storer of Oakland, New Jersey is like most of us. She fell in love and raised 5 children. But one day she noticed she was twitching somewhat uncontrollably, like her mother and her grandfather before that. Claire had Huntington's disease, and it has irrevocably changed her life.
The main thing is that I can't go out by myself anymore. I had to stay home, and now it takes me to go to work, and I sleep all morning.
Huntington's disease is an autosomal dominant disorder, which means that if you have the gene, you will have some manifestation of the problem, and you will have a 50-50 chance of passing that on. And usually the onset is in 30s, 40s, 50s.
Hope for Claire and others with Huntington's has been limited, but in March a report came out that said the gene for Huntington's has been isolated by studying a group of people in the village of Maracaibo in Venezuela. Scientists took samples of cells, and with the help of the Coriell Institute in Camden, were able to culture, grow, freeze, and distribute them all over the world. The result is a greater understanding than ever about the disease. For Claire and her husband Al, the disease has been devastating. It has affected Claire's body control and her mind. But the research could help their children if it leads to a treatment.
Each one of the children has a 50-50 chance of getting it.
For now, Claire fights what she knows is a fierce battle.
And I don't worry about it. I'm in God's hands, and He'll take care of me. And that's what I believe, and I laugh every day.
Obviously, she's a very courageous woman, and her husband and 5 children are very attentive toward her. That helps out a lot.
Brian, I was wondering if the 5 children have been tested.
They all have chosen at this point not to be tested. There has been a lot of controversy over testing, knowing if you're going to get this disease or not, and that's one of the real breakthroughs with this genetic disease. They're going to be able now to test people, certainly, but they know even if they have the disease that something might be done in the next 20 years. That was never thought of before. There may be a cure for Huntington's, and that's something that people can hold their hat onto, and it'll hopefully help. Tomorrow we're going to look at muscular dystrophy, a very common disease. It also runs in families.
Okay, Brian,
thanks, Brian.
Sure. Coming up, a former Phillies manager is the front runner to take over the Mets.
And the Phillies go for a sweep over the Florida Marlins. The highlights are next.
This financial report is brought to you by Core States.
The future is looking bleak for Garden State Park Racetrack. The owner, International Thoroughbred Breeder, says that unless a new owner can be found, the track will shut down December 4th. ITB says there are several interested in buying the track. An estimated 1,200 jobs are at stake. Garden State will continue simulcasting until it closes, with the regular fall harness racing meet going off as scheduled.
The Phils and the fish again tonight.
Yes, this is our first fish story about the marlin that got away, Jill. Phil's looking for their 4th straight win overall tonight, which would have included a sweep in their first ever series against those fish, the expansion Florida Marlins. Twice the Phils had leads. They weren't able to protect at Joe Robbie Stadium. They've got all the modern conveniences and some old-fashioned charm, too, including a manually operated scoreboard. Bottom of the first, Chuck Carr trying to notch a number up there, but Phil's catcher Darren Dalton shoots him down. Dutch, an impressive 13 for 27 put-downs on runners attempting to steal against him. Top of the third, Chris Hammond deals to Wes Chamberlain. Watch this. He launches a moon rocket up and over that 56-foot-high scoreboard, and it's 1-0 Phillies. Marlins even the score before Pete Incaviglia puts a charge in 1-2. See you later time for Inky. A 2-run shot, number 4 on the season. It's 3-1. But in the bottom of the 7th, with 2 outs and a man on first and second, watch this. You don't see this very often. Second baseman Mickey Morandini muffs it. And that means everybody's safe all the way around. And trouble for Mark Davis on in relief of starter Jose De Leon, who did a pretty good job. Davis walks Chuck Carr, forcing in the tying run, then gives up a bloop single to center by Rich Renteria, scoring Walt Weiss and Junior Felix. Phil snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. The final count, 5-3. The Marlins win it. Well, it started with CBS this morning and continued all day on New York Sports Radio. They were reporting the demise of Jeff Torborg as Mets manager, saying Dallas Green would take over tomorrow. Now, we tried to get confirmation from the Mets and Green as well, but nobody was talking today except for Torborg, who was in the New York dugout tonight when the Mets hosted the Pittsburgh Pirates. Lefty Frank Tanano on the mound for the Mets, serving up some room service to Kevin Young. Watch him rip it into the gap in right center. And here comes Andy Van Slyke all the way around home from first. Now, the Mets scheduled a news conference about 9 o'clock set to start about 30 minutes after the game. But how about this? The Mets came back with 3 in the 9th, so they can't hold that news conference and fire Jeff Torborg until it's over. 4-4 in the 10th right now. Tom Glavine now 6-0 after throwing a 4-hitter. 1-0 Atlanta over Montreal. San Francisco 6-3 over Houston. And in the 7th, the Cubbies and Cardinals are tied at 3. Back in spring training, the Tigers pitchers couldn't get anybody out. So much for spring training. They have been a whole lot better since the season started, and they've gotten off to a pretty good start up in Motown. Those big bats are the ones doing the boom in the Tiger Stadium in Detroit. Sparky Anderson's biggest spark plug, quadruple extra-large size Cecil Fielder. Singling up the middle, chasing home 2. The first-place Tigers up too early, and they are right now. In the 6th inning, the Tigers lead the Brewers 7-5. In the 9th, Baltimore 6-2 over the Tribe. Boston doubles up Toronto. California leading the White Sox 2-0 in the 8th. The Yankees sweep 3 from the Twins, 11-6 the final in the Metrodome today. Texas 3-1 over Seattle in the 6th, and in the 5th, Kansas City 9, Oakland 3. The Toronto Maple Leafs' improbable run continues in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. The Leafs finished the regular season in 3rd place in the Norris division, then won the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, earning the right to play L.A. for the Campbell Conference Championship. At Maple Leaf Gardens, Toronto takes the lead just 2:25 into the first period. Doug Gilmour beats Kelly Rudy. Then the Kings get the equalizer. Now we get the feed from Wendell Clark. Watch Glenn Anderson put the Leafs up again before Tony Granato evens the count. Moments ago, a goal by Tomas Sandstrom. And the Leafs lose it. The Kings beat them 3-2. That series now 1 game apiece. The NBA playoffs are taking the night off. Charles Barkley earned it last night, scoring 19 points, 6 rebounds, 2, and a fabulous 4th quarter, helping the Suns take a 3-2 lead in their best-of-7 Western Conference semifinal. Still, what brought the broadest smile to that familiar face was the Gorilla. That's right, the Gorilla. He had the play of the night, so we're going to slow it down as he comes around again with a perfect landing. Then he finishes it off with a flip and a smile. Of course, we span the globe searching for mascot mania.
Went all out for that one.
Yeah, but we must give credit where credit's due. Paul Luongo, our producer, who hates mascots, came up with that one. Much to his chagrin, we used it.
All right, thank you, Carl.
Okay, thanks. Well, the Pennsylvania Fair opens tomorrow, which showcases all types of livestock. Horses, cows, and the designer pet of the 90s, the Vietnamese pot-bellied pig. Recently, the pet pig has become a victim of its own popularity. But as Gerald Colpan reports, things may be looking up for the little pig that got too big.
Come on, here, come on.
Like all good Americans, I love a parade, and this pretty procession was almost no exception.
Not your turn. No, it's not your turn.
Say, to Susan Armstrong and 4 of the 28 Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs that currently reside on her Bucks County spread. Susan is a respected and established breeder of the oinkettes, hence a kitchen full of mama pig and her 9-week-old non-uplets. Up to now, the potbellies have been known for their affectionate nature and their relatively small size, all of which makes them prized pets for people preferring pigs.
They're very, very intelligent. They're challenging. They're novelty, of course. And if you're a single person and you had a pig on a leash, you're certainly to get some people to turn and look and talk to you.
Good pickup material.
Good, good.
But like all fads, the potbelly pastime had a downside. Last year, we started to hear reports of the porkers abandoned on roadsides or taken to the SPCA. Even Gustav here was returned to Susan after his owner couldn't keep him in a small apartment. It just seems like all of these pig enthusiasts got a lot more pork than they bargained for, right?
You brought home little Porky, and he ended up being a very large Porky in a short amount of time. A lot of those had to be given to animal petting zoos, and they ended up with the SPCA. I myself have placed about 12 unwanted pigs in the Philadelphia area. I think the fad is over, but I think the die-hard animal lovers are finding them to be terrific pets.
Popcorn! Come over here. Come on, popcorn!
So beware unscrupulous breeders, and don't expect the ham bone you buy to end up the size of Steve here. You'd better have room for at least 100 pounds of animated bacon. But just think, you'll never have to scrapple for a ton of love. In Rushland, Bucks County, Gerald Colpan, the 10 o'clock news.
Oh, it looked like Gerald was doing the cha-cha with that with that pig.
I think he's got a date.
You're going to be up at the fair on Monday in Bensalem.
That's right. I'll be broadcasting live from the fair Monday. Join me up there if you can. Today, as long as Mother Nature was supplying the water outside, our weather watcher was out beautifying the city. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Frank. We're here at City Hall. It's kind of rainy out. Not too bad. It's good for planning, though, because we're not sweating, so I guess that's a plus.
City Hall is 6,000 flowers more beautiful tonight thanks to the efforts of dozens of volunteers who spent the day digging in the dirt. The City Hall in Bloom project is sponsored by the city, PNC Bank, the Pennsylvania Horticultural Commission, and Fairmount Park. Gardeners young and old planted flowers in beds inside the courtyard and around the outside of the building.
Great idea.
It is.
When's the rain going to let up?
Well, we're watering the flowers right now, and I think we'll shut off the hose probably about 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then we'll start to see some partial clearing. I do have good news. I've taken rain out of the forecast for the weekend, so keep your fingers crossed. I think we'll remain dry all the way through Monday. Let's take a look outside. Here's how things are ending up. 63 degrees was the high today. 53 the low. Norms would be 74 and 54. The record high, 96. Set back in 1962, and it was 41 last century. Sun will rise tomorrow at 5:42 in the morning. Outside right now, still 60 with high humidity, a steady barometer, a southeast breeze at 5, and precipitation so far at Philly International 7/100ths of an inch. Taking a look at area temperatures right now, temperature 58 degrees in Westchester. We have 58 as well as in Dover, Wilmington 59, Reading 56. It's the same reading in Princeton and Atlantic City. We have light drizzle and mist around the entire Delaware Valley, some patchy fog, and that's limiting visibilities to 3 miles or less. So if you're traveling tonight or into early tomorrow morning, you might want to use a little extra caution and allow just a little extra time. Let's take a look at the satellite photograph. We zoom into our area. You see clouds over the entire Philadelphia region going all the way up into New England, but there is good news. Out to the west of us, clouds are now breaking up in western Pennsylvania and eastern sections of Ohio, and those clearing skies should start to edge in towards Philadelphia tomorrow. We should see rain in the morning, cloudy skies probably between 10 and noon, and then the clouds starting to break up about 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon and a few peaks of sunshine before sunset. A lot of cloud cover out in the Rocky Mountain states. Showers and thunderstorms getting quite heavy in parts of Colorado going down into Texas, where Amarillo, Texas has a good-sized thunderstorm right now. Showers and thunderstorms from the middle section of Missouri going all the way into central Illinois. And as we zoom in on regional radar, here's what's happening in our area. The entire area is covered with light mist and drizzle, but it's too hard to be picked up on radar because it is so small. We have some heavier showers in Bucks County going into Mercer County, New Jersey, and down in southern portions of Delaware going into Cape May. Once these heavier showers move out, we'll be just left with the light rain and the mist on and off throughout the entire evening. Now, the jet stream takes a big push northward across the U.S.-Canadian border and pushes hot air up with it. High temperatures well into the 90s in Idaho and Montana today. Fair skies in the Central Plains, very warm and sticky down along the Gulf Coast with highs better than 90 degrees and humidities well into the 70% ranges, and damp conditions sitting right over to Philadelphia area. And that's what we're going to experience all night as that low pressure center sort of inches off the eastern seaboard, and that's what's keeping the rain with us this evening. Clearing skies out to the west of us, and if we put the maps into motion for tomorrow, you will see sunshine building out to the west of us in North Dakota going County into Chicago and down into the Gulf Coast region. As we zoom into our area, low pressure will be right to the south of us, probably over the nation's capital by around 10 a.m. and off the eastern seaboard by the early afternoon, dragging the rain showers with it. And there's that sunshine starting to move in for the latter part of the afternoon. The Pocono 68 for your high, the Jersey Shore 67. The rest of the Delaware Valley looks like this. Periods of light rain, patchy fog, low down to 55 degrees with light winds. For tomorrow, we'll see some morning rain, then partial clearing with a high of 68 on northwest winds. For tomorrow night, partly cloudy and cooler, the low down to 48 degrees, and my 5-day forecast does show Friday partly sunny, 71, not a bad day. Saturday and Sunday right around 70 degrees with limited sunshine. Showers and thunderstorms and warmer on Monday with a high temperature of 76. I really think high pressure will keep the showers out for the weekend.
Weekend is looking better every day.
It certainly is.
Thank you. Still ahead, another superhero is forced to surrender his status, and Bill Wine joins us with his review of Much Ado About Nothing, the movie version of the Shakespeare comedy. The Mayor's Commission on Literacy gathered at City Hall today to celebrate its 10th anniversary. Mayor Ed Rendell led today's rally, saying that the goal is for all Philadelphians to be able to read and write. Over the last 10 years, the commission has grown dramatically. While it has helped 25,000 adults learn to read, close to 500,000 adults in Philadelphia are still functionally illiterate.
The life of a superhero is getting tougher and tougher, especially in comic books. Batman is hanging up his cape just like Superman. He's going to be sidelined in a brutal Gotham City brawl. The Cape Crusader will be injured in Batman number 497, which arrives in stores next week. The full story will play out in 30 issues. DC Comics editors say the character goes back 54 years, and every once in a while, you have to shake it up. Writer, producer, director, and star Kenneth Branagh brings an all-star cast together for a movie version of the William Shakespeare comedy Much Ado About Nothing, opening today at the movies. Bill Wine is with us now with a review of a film that stars, in addition to Branagh, his real-life wife, Emma Thompson, Denzel Washington, Keanu Reeves, and Michael Keaton. Good cast.
Yeah, all he's got is an Oscar winner, an Oscar nominee, and plenty of star power. Okay, word association test. I say Shakespeare, you say Wake Me When It's Over. Fair enough. But enter the British star and director of Dead Again and Peter's Friends, Kenneth Branagh, who dares you not to enjoy his film version of William Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. 4 years ago, Branagh brought Shakespeare's Henry V to the screen, winning him Oscar nominations as Best Actor and Best Director. It was a magnificent movie, dramatic, intense, and moving. Much Ado About Nothing resides on the opposite side of the theatrical universe. It's the romantic yin to Henry V's yang. This one's sunny, silly, sexy, and sarcastic, and it, too, is magnificent.
Truly, I love none.
Emma Thompson and Kenneth Branagh are the sharp-tongued antagonists, Beatrice and Benedict, unaware of just how attracted they are to each other.
I had rather hear my dog bark at a crow than a man swear he loves me.
God keep your ladyship still in that mind, so some gentleman or other shall scape a predestinate scratched face.
Robert Sean Leonard is Claudio, smitten with a young woman named Hero.
But I hope you have no intent to turn husband. Have you?
I would scarce trust myself, though I had sworn the contrary. If Hero would be my wife.
Keanu Reeves is the jealous Don John, who's up to no good.
It must not be denied, but I am a plain-dealing villain. If I had my mouth, I would bite.
The Prince of Aragon is Don John's half-brother, Don Pedro, played by Denzel Washington, who does a little half-hearted wooing of Beatrice.
Will you have me, lady?
No, my lord. Unless I might have another for working days.
If Don Pedro can't have her, at least he can play matchmaker.
If we can do this, Cupid is no longer an archer. His glory shall be ours. For we are the only love gods.
Michael Keaton is Dogberry, the malaprop spouting constable.
Sixth and lastly, they belie the lady. Thirdly, they have verified unjust things. And to conclude, they are lying knaves.
For Beatrice and Benedict, insult remains their preferred form of foreplay.
You take pleasure, then, in the message?
Yea, just so much as you may take upon a knife's point.
Two of the best actors on this planet married to each other. It boggles the mind. As he was in Henry V, Kenneth Branagh is devoted to making Shakespeare accessible to movie audiences, and Much Ado is, wonderfully so. Actors like Brannigan and Emma Thompson know how to give Shakespeare's dialogue a contemporary spin without changing a word. They're so skilled, they make it sound like it was written for them. And they turn this mating game farce about the joys and terrors of love into a rollicking, satisfying romantic comedy. The only thing that doesn't work in this version is Michael Keaton's overly broad Dogberry character, but that is, dare I say it, as much Billy the Bard's fault as Brannig's. Still, a hearty 3.5 stars out of 4 for Kenneth Brannig's earthy, spirited, charming, funny, and moving Much Ado About Nothing. And I say, pray, get thee to a movie theater to see it, not because it's good for you, because it's delicious. I know no one believes me, but you can have fun at a Shakespeare movie. This is the movie that proves it.
I believe you.
Okay.
Mind-boggling. We'll be right back.
Here's another look at what happened today. For the third time in 2 weeks, a man was killed as Philadelphia police tried to arrest him. Witnesses say 36-year-old Kenny McClary was shot in the chest after he threw a bottle at a police officer. McClary's death comes 1 day before a city council vote on whether to implement a police oversight board.
SEPTA has begun testing its employees on the subway elevated lines for TB, because a worker has tested positive for that disease. SEPTA and the City Health Department say there is no risk to the riding public and little risk to transit employees because the worker never actually came down with the disease. All 7 employees of the White House Travel Office were abruptly fired today. They had been in their jobs from 10 to 30 years. They were accused of mismanagement and overbilling. The FBI will probably investigate. A distant cousin of the president was named to oversee travel arrangements using the services of a Little Rock, Arkansas travel agency. Carl?
Well, the Phil's throwing away, losing 5-3 to the Marlins, wasting titanic home runs by Wes Chamberlain and Pete Incaviglia. Frank?
We'll start out with some rain tomorrow morning, then some sunshine in the afternoon with a high of 68 and a low of 48 later.
All right, Frank, that is our news for this Wednesday for the entire 10 o'clock news team. Thank you for joining us.
Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.